All right. For those of you who are joining us via the live stream, apologies for the beginning. We're still working out a few kinks, but we are live. um, and so why don't we go ahead and get started? Tonight, it's a very important meeting, and my understanding is some of the elected officials are at another rent-related meeting and are planning to stop by, and so hopefully they'll make it for the second half. So more to come there. But tonight, the main focus is going to be the Van Keuren waste proposal, the facility that we're going to be discussing. Obviously, there's a lot of concerns, and so for the music, is it possible to thank you. So the main topic is going to be the Van Keuren waste facility proposal, and we're very excited to have three individuals who are going to talk about the nuts and bolts of this proposal. We have Deborah Italiano, who's the president of Sustainable JC, as well as Deborah Helmick, who's the director of policy at the New Jersey. Excuse me. Brooke Helmick, the director of policy at the New Jersey Environmental Justice Alliance, and Colin Parks, who's an associate attorney at Earth Justice. And so the agenda is going to be as follows. First, we're going to hear from Maureen, who's a business owner, their newest business member, Present Day Goods. Check them out at presentdaygoods.com. So she'll talk a little bit about their business. And so thank you, Maureen, for supporting JSQCA. And then we're after that presentation, we're going to go into the heart of tonight. And so first, we'll hear from Brooke. She'll give a short presentation, followed by Colin, and then Deborah will round us out. And so they'll talk about the facility from their different vantage points. After that, we're going to open it up for Q&A. And so they'll be joining, they'll be up here, and then you can line up at the mic and ask your questions, and then they'll just field them. And we'll sort of take stock at around 8:45, 9 o'clock, see if any electeds have been able to make it. And then they'll be able to give some brief remarks regarding the Van Keuren facility itself. And that should take us to roughly 9:30, and then we'll start wrapping up at that point. So jam-packed agenda. We're very excited to have the presenters as well as Maureen. And so Maureen, why don't you kick us off? And Maureen, did you have a presentation as well?
Yes. They have
Yeah, we'll get yours up right now. And let me just confirm. Yeah. Perfect. So if you just click for this area, it'll get to the next slide. Take your time. If it's 10 minutes, okay. Thank you, Maureen.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. It's nice to be here. I haven't done this before, so we'll see what happens. I just made this slide presentation to describe what I do, a little bit how I started. I've been in Jersey City for over 20 years. I started out in downtown where a lot of people start, and then I moved to the Heights, which also a lot of people do, and then I ended up in Lincoln's Park neighborhood. And that's where I am now. During the pandemic, I started making candles, and then it sort of expanded into soaps, and then it expanded into lip balms, and then I got interested in bird watching and learning about bees, and we have beekeepers in Jersey City, and I ended up getting some of my beeswax supplies from a beekeeper that has hives in Ogden Gardens in Riverview. So any lip balms or body balms, things like that that contain beeswax have Jersey City beeswax in them from Jersey City Bees. So this is my logo that you might see around. I try to do markets in Jersey City a lot. I'll be at Cole Street tomorrow. They have one from 2 to 7. There's one. I'm occasionally at Riverview. I'm occasionally at Lincoln Park. I'm occasionally at Hoboken under the bridge on Saturdays. So I wanted to say thank you to everyone here. And I'm pretty excited to introduce you to what I'm doing. This is like a big meeting for me. This is me and the description of, you know, what, how I ended up doing this, because it wasn't really part of a plan. It just sort of happened, and I've been artistic, and I went to design school, and I actually have a history of working in the publishing industry and working on making paper products and production and design and stuff. So this is my own little like factory in my house. Yeah, it's working.
Can you try again?
There we go. So this looks kind of dramatic up here. 2020 was the pandemic, and that's where I got my, I don't know, cooped up inspiration, I guess. And I learned many of the recipes and techniques from generous people on YouTube that have been doing this for many years, and they're sharing what they know, which is really cool. My first markets, I used coconut wax. I started out with soy wax, but I found that coconut wax had a cleaner burn and the fragrances are stronger, actually. So I was like really disappointed when I made my first soy candles, and I'm like, I can't even smell it. So I started using this, and it's really good. It's very popular. People really go for the candles, and I am split with all my tastes, and I have so many different scents that people really enjoy all the variety. And then a lot of people around the pandemic were also making candles, so it got really flooded, and that's when I started expanding to other things. So now I have soap and lip balm, like I mentioned. I have car fresheners now, and I have some lip balms and face balms and things. Here's an example of what my studio table looks like. I don't know. I don't really need to read, do I? Yeah, so the hair oils are new. That's really fun. And everything is as nature-based or natural as possible. These are things that I'm starting to make things for myself, so I don't have to buy stuff that is made in a factory. And so I'm the first guinea pig, and I try everything. And then when I think it's good enough, I'll make more and bring it to a table and see what everybody thinks. And room sprays do really well. I started selling little essential oil roller bottles, and people are very interested in the essential oil scents. Body lotions, people are very interested in all this variety and all the scents, and it's a really fun experiment. This is a sample of some of my candles. I do the labels myself. I source the tins and everything. I don't know. I was a product designer, so I bring that design aesthetic to everything that I'm making.
Yeah, I'm gonna flip.
Let's see. The lotions have shea butter. The hair oils and body oils and things, it's like there's no lab-based anything in there. There is in some of the things, like the body lotions have things that make it feel smoother when you apply it, but they're mostly nature-based products. These things are new. I don't really have, I didn't bring like a whole setup here, but you can also go to my website and everything's on there, and you can see like the formats of everything and prices. And Gardener's Balm is really neat. This is a product that's very intense moisturizing. It has a lot of shea butter, coconut oil, sweet almond oil, but it also has the Jersey City beeswax. Bug bars are really cool. That sells very well in the summertime. That is a natural bug deflector, I'll call it, because it doesn't really kill them. It's just smells that they don't like. Blended into a lotion bar that has this like mostly shea butter, some beeswax, and other oils. The lip balms are one of the most popular things, and I made them with such good quality that people don't really need to replace them that often. So I learned a lesson from doing that. Um, here's a picture of one of our busier markets. This was at Riverview recently. I basically make it I make it a priority to try to plant myself in every park that we have, just to sort of get the lay of the land and introduce what I'm doing. And I get to meet people all day. It's pretty fun, actually. It's a lot of natural ingredients. It's everything is actually made by me. I do have an independent supply chain. I order many supplies from other businesses that are bigger than mine, but still like mom and pop, as you say. I am eco-conscious. I do not use plastic. I use glass or tin or paper. The lip balm tubes, for example, are paper push-up tubes. That's very annoying to me. I don't understand how we understand about plastic, and these corporations are pumping out plastic bottles. I don't really understand it, but you know, I'm doing my microscopic part. And this is a short list of how to find us. This is under the bridge in Hoboken. That's where we are on like every other Saturday. I have an Instagram, Facebook. I have a TikTok that I neglect because it's a little beyond my capacity. I do direct sales. I do custom projects. I can do a custom project for a business. I can put someone else's label on my products, on any of them. I can also help with party favors, weddings, bridal showers, and baby showers. I mean, it's like wedding anniversaries, whatever it is. I'm very, when you reach out to us, it's me, and it's like always you're just talking to me. So we'll talk about it. And here's a little further example of custom and wholesale. It can also be found on fair.com. And these are some quotes from my happy customers. And that's the end of my presentation. Thank you.
So for this, for the rest of the evening, we're going to learn a lot more about the Vancouver Waste Facility. But first, thank you so much, Maureen, for your presentation. PresentDayGoods.com. Check them out. Support the businesses that support the community. And so we're going to have 3 different presentations, and we're going to kick things off with Brooke Helmick, who's the Director of Policy at the NJ Environmental Justice Alliance. Where is Brooke?
Brooks getting interviewed right now.
Oh, all right, Colin, you want to kick us off?
I can hop in just real quick.
Okay.
I do have a presentation on, but I don't know if I'm able to pull that. So this presentation was designed to go.
Colin, might be best.
Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot about that.
And if you click this arrow, it'll take you to the next slide.
Very cool, thank you. I was literally told to speak it in the mic and then I forgot. Sorry about that. So this, oh great, Brooke, you're done. Brooke has a more comprehensive presentation. I would prefer you to go first.
Okay.
Oh.
Oh God, that was a terrible noise. Okay. Hi friends, my name is Brooke. I serve as the Director of Policy with the New Jersey Environmental Justice Alliance. Just a bit about us. NJEJA is an organization that is over 20 years old. We serve and support all environmental justice community across the state of New Jersey, and we have partners across the country. So that is what we do, and I can talk more about NJEJA later on with you if you have any other questions about our organization in particular, but for the sake of time, I'm just going to dive straight into it. So just by a show of hands, so I know what I'm working with here, who knows what the EJ law is, or the environmental justice law? Okay, that's great. I will take it. All right. So the environmental justice law is sometimes referred to as the cumulative impacts law. It is the first kind of law in the country. So that's super exciting. The problem then becomes that every decision is precedent setting, including this one. This is the first decision regarding a new permit under the environmental justice law. So the law was passed in 2020 by former Governor Phil Murphy, and along with a number of advocates who were present, NJEJA being one of them. And the EJ rules were promulgated in 2023, the first hearing in 2024, and the first decision under 2025. And I can, again, talk to you about that in more depth, but we're going to focus specifically on the Van Keuren hearing. So the law is meant to cover New Jersey's overburdened communities. You'll sometimes hear that be called disadvantaged communities, environmental justice communities. They all have slightly different things if we're going to get a little bit, nitpicky about it. But for the most part, we're going to call them OBCs. And OBCs are defined as a census block group determined in accordance with most recent U.S. Census, which at least must meet one of or more than one of the following three criteria. 35% of the households qualify as low income, 40% identify as a minority or members of a state-recognized tribal community, or 40% have a limited English proficiency. So that's a pretty decent chunk. And all of the blue that you see up over here, that's an OBC. And remember, we're talking about census block groups, not census tracts, so pretty small granularity. All right, a lot of text here. We don't have to read it. I promise I won't read it to you. But what we're trying to talk about is disproportionate impact. That's a phrase that you're going to hear me say a lot. You're probably going to hear Colin say it and Deb say it, and we're just going to keep on saying it. Disproportionate impact means that the facility cannot either A, create adverse cumulative stressors in an OBC, or B, they will contribute to the adverse stressors in an OBC that is already subject to adverse cumulative stressors. What are cumulative stressors? Well, there's 26 different types. I'm not going to list them all for you, but just to give you a sense of kind of what we're talking about particulate matter pollution, volatile organic compound pollution. We can talk about medium and heavy duty trucks, stormwater runoff, like the normal things that you would think about that would negatively impact a community. And the law is very, very clear. When a applicant, in this case, I'm probably going to call them a facility, cannot avoid a disproportionate impact, and they are a new applicant, the department must deny that. The law is very clear about this. This is going to come back later, friends. I'm going to give you a hint. Unless the applicant demonstrates that it will serve a compelling public interest. So we have a tiny little loophole here. And for the folks that were in the room, and some of them are on our board and told me this story, they left this in here intentionally, although they were worried, because compelling public interest, a lot of folks are going to say, what does that even mean? But they left it in here because sometimes there may be a very real need for a particular type of facility, like if you need more sewage infrastructure that just can't be met because you're already at capacity. That's a real need. People can't function without sewer. So, all right, we'll go there.
Mark, is it the case that Van Keuren is a new? You use that as an underscore.
Yes.
Are they a new applicant?
Yes, they are a new applicant, although they have tried to get their application in before, and they had a technical deficiency notice, so it never went through the process. So even though they're trying again for round 2, like 9 years later, they're still a new applicant because they've never received a permit in the first place. Yeah, so stay tuned, friends. So compelling public interest. So I said, what the heck does that mean? Well, a lot of things, actually. But compelling public interest means that it serves an essential environmental, health, or safety need of the individuals in the OBC. So the example I gave of sewer, that was one thing that came up in the conversations in 2022 and 2023, something that's actually quite needed. So yeah, that's compelling public interest. And there's one piece of the rules that I think is really, really important, and it's this piece, and I'm going to come back to it a lot. I said it on April 28th. I'm going to keep saying it, and I hope you all will say it too, which is that if you are trying to get a new permit under compelling public interest, you need to prove that you will primarily serve an essential environmental need, it is necessary to serve. That's super important. And that there are no reasonable alternatives. There is nothing under the sun that could possibly meet this environmental need other than what this facility claims to do. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that probably doesn't exist, but it's in the law, just in case, because you never know what's happening. And insert Van Keuren. So Van Keuren is, again, like from our audience member Deb said out loud, you know, are they a new facility? Yeah, they're proposing to be new, and they claim compelling public interest. And so what is this sort of interest that they're claiming? Well, they're going to say they're going to receive 750 tons of waste per day, and that's going to include 6 different types of waste. That's municipal, bulky waste, construction and demolition waste, vegetative waste, animal and food processing, dry industrial waste. And they're going to have 130 trucks per day. We've since updated this number actually to be more accurate. 130 trucks per day is actually 260 truck trips. We need to make sure that we're counting both the in and outbound truck, because that's in and outbound pollution that's going to go into the surrounding community. And what is their schedule? Their schedule is going to be from 4 a.m. to 10 p.m. From 4 a.m. to 6 a.m., they're going to truck out residue from their facility. So anything that they've stored and said, yeah, we can sell this or we can get rid of this. From 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., they're going to be accepting waste. That's 260 trucks coming over a 12-hour period. And then from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m., they're going to have trailer loading, weighing and tarping, repairs, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of noisy equipment in the evening hours. So where is this going to be around? So we hear a lot about like the zoning and things, but I want to ground this in the folks that, like probably many of you in here, have to live around this facility if it were going to be built. Well, why is this particular area an OBC? It is due to the percentage of the population which speaks a language other than English and identifies as a member of a minority group or tribal nation and qualifies as a low income. This particular OBC meets all 3 of the criteria. Remember, to qualify as an OBC, you only have to meet 1. This particular area qualifies as all 3, just to give you a sense of the community that's going to be living around here. And the OBC, where Van Keuren is proposed to be located, is adverse for 19 out of 26 stressors. So this is 19 environmental and public health burdens that already exist without Van Keuren. I really want to make that clear. None of the stressors that are on this have factored in any Van Keuren pollution yet. That's really important. And the ones that I do want to lift up as particularly related to Van Keuren include ground level ozone, traffic of medium and heavy duty trucks, the things that are going to be in and out of Van Keuren, and then known contaminated sites and all, et cetera. The list goes on. Okay. And then within 1 mile of the proposed site, this number is always particularly astounding to me. There are 14 hospitals, nursing homes, and medical centers, 19 parks, playgrounds, and rec areas, 12 schools, 9 childcare facilities within 1 mile. So all of those folks that are already vulnerable to localized air pollution are going to be dealing with additional localized air pollution if the Van Keuren site were going to be built. All right, I'm going to pause real quick. So that's a little bit about Van Keuren, and that sort of tells you then, I'm going to go backtrack to compelling public interest. And Colin's going to talk about this just a little bit more, but I want to underscore this point. Van Keuren in particular has said that they serve this compelling public need, but the public need that they actually serve is in the much broader region. And I want to underscore one particular point when it comes to compelling public interest, is that the law is very clear. The interest must serve the needs of the overburdened community. These folks, 19 out of 26 stressors, 12 schools, 9 childcare facilities, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The Van Keuren site must serve their needs if they qualify for this compelling public interest clause under the law. They don't. I'm going to spoil Colin's presentation. They don't. All right, y'all. So this is where I get to the recommendation. DEP must deny this permit just by the virtue of the letter of the law. If you don't qualify for the exemption, you don't get the exemption. It's really that clear. If you want to build your facility somewhere else, we can have that fight another day. But right now, you don't get to build it here. That's what the law says. But on top of that, there are a lot of other moral and policy arguments that we can make that Colin and Deb are going to touch on. And the thing I also want to highlight is that there are 2 facilities similar to Van Keuren within a 1 mile radius that have capacity. So all of this trash, all of this trash that Van Keuren says that they're going to be taking could go somewhere else. So there is not, they don't meet that clause of no reasonable alternative that I highlighted for you. And then, yeah, there it goes. Okay, thank you. There are other areas in the broader region. I believe, Colin, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's like 7 other facilities in the broader county region. And so all of this gets down to is
Anderson County.
in
The NJSCA.
Thank you. And JSEA. Gosh, I love audience participation. All right. And so what they're getting to is market choice, not a need, not an essential service for the children and the families living there. It's about the market. The market's not part of this. The law, again, very clear. And the final thing I do definitely want to underscore is that Van Keuren cites job benefits. We heard in their presentation when we were there on April 28th that they're going to create 14 jobs. All of these trucks, 260 trucks, 4 a.m. to 10 p.m. for 14 jobs. That being said, the court says you can't count job benefits. And the law says you can't count job benefits. So they're trying to trick the community into thinking, oh, there's going to be so many more jobs that we can do. And that sounds really good. You know what I mean? That sounds really great that, this new facility is going to come in. Maybe it's going to take a little, time. It's going to be a little smelly or whatever, but we'll get new jobs. No, you're getting 14 jobs. And the law says you can't count jobs as a compelling public interest. So end of the day, DEP's got to demand this permit. That's my spiel. And if you have any questions, let me know.
You will see that there's a reason I had Brooke go first. So I wanted to start my presentation by rooting us right in where the facility is going to be located. I was here last week. I got to do a little IT test, and after the IT test, I walked along St. Paul's Avenue. I waited probably 15 minutes because there was a train there, and it just sat, and it just sat, and it just sat, and then it sat a little longer. And then I got to walk all the way to the facility, right? And I passed by people's houses. I passed by the highway, but I also passed by people's houses. I counted 4 trucks in the 3 minutes that it took me to walk from the railroad to the avenue that Van Keuren is going to be along. That's going to be increasing if this facility goes forward. Those trucks are going to result in a lot of different pollutant increases. But before I talk about the pollutant increases, let's take a look at what a transfer station looks like. Y'all, this is bad. I don't know how else to say it. This is what happens. These trash trucks, right? They come with all of this waste. They dump it into this pit, more or less. It gets pushed around all over the place. It gets sorted. It eventually goes into a trailer and it gets trucked off. But this is what they're proposing to build right nearby folks' houses, right nearby where I walked, right nearby a major population center in Journal Square, India Square, right? You're going to be smelling that. You're going to be feeling the rumble of the trucks, and it's going to be blowing around. They talk about it having to occur within this enclosed facility, but we all know that no matter how well enclosed it is, you can see the stuff dropping off the back of the trucks as they drive by, right? We've all seen that when the trash trucks come and they pick up our waste. They're not perfect seals. They're going to be releasing that. So the facility impacts, right? There's obviously truck and equipment pollution. And one thing to think about here is the way that the truck pollution got analyzed for this facility was talking about the vehicle miles traveled. This sounds kind of wonky, but I promise it makes sense. One of the ways they were looking at it was, oh, when a truck gets to our site, it's only going to move maybe a quarter of a mile, right? It's only going to move maybe a half mile. So it's only going to release that amount of pollution. That completely ignores the fact that these trucks are idling while they're there, right? That's an engine that's running. That's an engine that's releasing emissions. And it completely got ignored when they were counting and talking about the pollution that's going to happen in this community. Here's the second kicker.
What was ignored?
The pollution that comes from idling from these trucks, right? So when the trucks are there, they count the pollution by the number of miles traveled. They're not traveling very far, but if they're running the whole time, they're releasing pollution the whole time. And somehow they're not counting that. But something else that I want to point out about this facility when they were talking about their equipment is just an example of why they're not necessarily the best neighbor. They propose that at some point in the future, if this facility gets built, they would potentially transition from diesel equipment to electric equipment. This is not going to be news to some, but there is actually electric vehicles out there already. It's shocking to me that this facility talked about, oh, at some point we'll maybe consider transitioning from diesel powered equipment to electric equipment, and that will somehow be a favor to the community that we're polluting. There is electric equipment now. If you wanted to be a good neighbor, you could consider running electric equipment at the start, but no, they didn't consider that. So like Brooke said, When there's a facility that cannot avoid a disproportionate impact, the department shall deny the application unless there's a compelling public interest. So the compelling public interest exception, like Brooke said, is a large portion of my presentation. I'm not going to take too much time, but I do want to say the primary thing to consider is in the overburdened community where it is to be located, right? It has to serve a compelling public interest in the overburdened community. And there's a reason for that. And the reason is that communities have often been treated as sacrifice zones. That was the entire purpose of the EJ law, to reverse this approach of treating one community as a dumping ground for the benefit of everyone else, right? It has to be a benefit to the community where this facility will be located. It has to meet an essential environmental health or safety need. It has to be necessary, and there have to be no reasonable alternatives. Van Keuren has a lot of claims about their compelling public interest. One of them is an increased efficiency through optionality. The response is there are other options that exist already, and they efficiently handle the waste. I wrote this down, but didn't include it in my presentation, unfortunately. So there is already an IWS transfer station that's less than a mile from the facility. As of 2014, it handles 1725 tons per day of waste and 9,450 tons per week, right? There are options already. This is less than a mile from this proposed facility. They talk about a future need for increased material handling capacity, and this was where I was wrong, Brooke. I'm sorry about this. There are already 8 transfer stations in Hudson County, and there are 688,000 tons of excess handling capacity in Bergen County per year. There's a reason I mentioned Bergen County. It'll come up in just a second. And finally, they talk about economic benefits. These are speculative at best, but even more than that, it's insulting. The idea that somehow we're going to provide 14 jobs and therefore you should sacrifice the health of your children, you should sacrifice the health of your community to potentially secure these 14 jobs is frankly ridiculous and insulting. Thank you. I appreciate that. So here's the reason that I mentioned Bergen County, right? And I mentioned excess waste capacity rather in Bergen County. And this is the reason I mentioned the sacrifice zone as well. This is a map of NJSEA. I have to tell you, I wasn't super familiar with NJSEA previously, but it's the New Jersey Sports and Exposition Authority. They handle waste and things like that. But the reason I mention it and the reason I have a map up here is that throughout their environmental justice application, this facility talks about the benefits that they're going to provide to NJSEA. For those of us who can't find it, it was hard for me initially. Here's where the facility is. Right down there. Right, that tiny little corner down here. Here's a blow up. It's that one portion, right, of like Jersey City. They just say, okay, we're going to take that kind of one area that is primarily like as far as possible from the rest of NJSEA, and we're going to use that particular area as the ideal location for this transfer site. There is no essential need in the community, but they're arguing about the essential need for NJSEA. That's treating a community as a sacrifice zone. That's the exact reason that the environmental justice law was passed in the first place. Second, it's not necessary. Here's a photo of where the other 8 transfer stations are. And here's a photo of the facility, which is that pink square, right by the 2 transfer stations that are within less than a mile, which have more than twice as much capacity as the facility already. And there's been no proof of alternatives. There's a whole big NJSEA waste district. We haven't seen a need. We haven't seen a discussion of other areas within NJSEA adequately. They have like 2 sentences in their entire environmental justice application. They haven't met any of the 3 prongs of compelling public interest. And finally, again, economic benefits shall not be considered. In addition to it being insulting, it's against the rules. And finally, this is something that they didn't mention in their application, but I think everybody should know about. There is a biofuels production facility, or I'm sorry, a biofuels production company that bought the company that wants to get this application, right? They bought 99% of Van Keuren LLC, and the contract to buy it states that first, they want to install their biomass recovery process on the site. And second, operate the transfer station. They're trying, it seems like, to backdoor a biomass facility in through this transfer station application. They intend to later apply for the biomass facility after they get this transfer station application approved. So this isn't the end of it, right? This is just the beginning of what they want to do as well. So for all of those reasons, this should be denied.
What is the biomass facility?
I really wish I knew. It's basically, as I understand it, they're going to take waste from the transfer station, put it through some sort of process that'll eventually create ethanol and other sort of like fuels, right, for your car. They want to take the waste, they want to, I don't know, do something to it. It sounds like they heat it up and then maybe distill it. I really wish I had a better answer. That's something we're still working on researching. We don't understand what their process is yet. But none of that, to be clear, none of that is in their application at all. I wish I could tell you better.
Thank you, Colin. And then to wrap up the presentation portion, we have Deborah. Thank you, Deb. Excellent.
The Clean Water Act actually said we don't want a biofuels facility here. Not understanding all of what that is. I apologize. Can you hear me now?
Perfect.
Okay, great. So Clean Water Action at the public hearing said we absolutely don't want a biofuels facility here either. So we'll get to all the specifics around why, but that sounds like another atrocious upside to what they're planning here, right? So at the public hearing, and just batting cleanup here, I did same at the public hearing. I think I was the last person or second to last person, to speak. And really my outrage was focused on the NJSEA, right? So tacking off of where you've left off here. What I have here and what I'm willing to do is put up, a page on our website with all of the resources that have been shared in the background of things. So these presentations, for example, can be made useful to the community and accessible. So I'll put those all up. The, Eastern Environmental Law Center and the NJEJA have been fabulous first pace coaches for us. And these talking points links, are recaps of what basically Brooke and Colin have spoken to tonight, but you want to actually dive in on your own further. It's different when you're, quietly reading through these. So I would invite people, again, I'll make these presentations, I'll publish them available to everyone. There's a primer that the NJEJA, so Brooks organization, have provided, and I'm going to circle back to that, but part of it is a reference to the Van Keuren redevelopment plan. That's just another link, videotape of my outrage at the last public meeting, deemed suitable for housing, in fact, affordable housing. And they reversed that assessment at a point in time where it then became a commercial industrial site, right? So if they have the authority to do that, it would seem to me, and I don't know this to be true, but it would seem to me that it could happen in reverse. So for example, that is a commercial industrial site now zoned in Jersey City, and it's in the way of everything that we have planned here, right? That is going to be the nexus of all of the visionary Greenway projects connecting in Jersey City, right? So wouldn't it be great? There are a lot of people circling, including folks like M&T Bank, who I've had some conversations with, who are very interested to support what's happening with where these these greenways are converging. It's going to take a hell of a lot of investment here, right? But part of that plan is housing. Why can't that pocket be reversed from an industrial site? And this is going to be, a fight to the finish, because there's a lot of reasons that are going to be cited why that can't happen. You know, the word it can't happen. Of course it can happen, right? So the idea of clearing the way for this interconnectivity of greenways coming through Jersey City and also offering affordable housing in that neck of the woods, that can happen with the proper, you know, I think warriors in this battle, right? It's going to take the municipality, and we've had some communication with council and with the mayor's office. And of course, Bill O'Day has represented the county's perspective, and he's, you know, pretty pissed that there is no accountability having this group interface with even the county's waste management plan. They didn't come to the county or the city. You know, they just sort of declared they're doing this. So there seems to be some intervention that needs to happen by state officials or electeds that can amend their authority, have them be more accountable, have it even be, in fact, a conversation that, you know, at the municipal level and the county level who supported, you know, these, you know, greenways coming through Jersey City. We're talking about the Essex Hudson Greenway connecting through Jersey City, the embankment, the Bergen Arches. We even have, you know, the Morris Canal. We have all of, and all the green space planning that has gone on for that pocket in particular, right? This facility, that whole area as an industrial, it's in the way of everything that we're planning for the future in Jersey City. It needs to be reinvented. I don't know how to do that, but they seem to have superseding authority, you know, and I had mentioned this at the public forum, that even the, you know, new governor's office, there's been a staff member that's been assigned to sort of become more familiar with this. How are these people, who are these people, how are they ordained, who ordained them, right? But to understand better how to sort of resituate this, because this is not going to be the last project they propose. You know, and I really want to get my hands on your maps because we do a lot of story mapping, and we'll sort of move on to that now. But I'd like to superimpose, and we just came off of the transit forum, which was beautifully done, where we're looking at where all these greenways connected and how some of this is just going to be an impairment to that. But you know, we also have an affordable housing plan and a mandate in Jersey City, and we're struggling to meet that. So it could be that, again, in the same way that in their redevelopment plan, they've cited as policy this targeted area as industrial, they can rezone it back the other way, right? And that's an opportunity that I'd like to pursue with our elected officials, you know, in partnership. So that's all I have, but I wanted to show, could we do that? You know, when we're talking about community stressors, what SJC has done is map, and we chose a select, you know, and this is something that we'll also publish on that webpage that I'll put up. But where those red arrows are, those are, you know, in the bottom left quadrant versus the 3 quadrants above is the public health statistics compared to the built environment. And each of those cases where those are these red arrows, we have the highest rate of asthma, heart attack, COPD, and strokes in Hudson County. So above the county average, above the state average, right? And some of the things in the built environment, like traffic or historic sites, or contaminated sites, our scrap metal facilities, right? We have a huge number of air permits, people coming in and needing air permits to operate here, given the air pollution that they're creating, right? So we've also spoken about flooding because that's, you know, a hazard, and we're talking about overburdened communities, the OBCs that Brooke had pointed out. That's, you know, something that people are burdened by. But all of these air related air cancer risk, air non-cancer risk, the air quality index in Jersey City versus other municipalities in Hudson County. We're higher on all these counts. Can we go to the next? So this is an extraction from, if we come down a little bit, what we created out of a healthy community planning project. It was the first time that the New Jersey DEP and the Department of Health collaborated. These are 2022 statistics, but they, what we did was take that one chart, which is the easiest thing to swallow, and we created the entirety of the community stressor cited for Jersey City. So I would suggest, if it's of interest to you, just to make things simple for the public, we had that one chart. But if you really want to dive in deep, on our website, under our story map page, we have a community stressors map that basically, if we scroll down just a little bit, if you go across, if you go back up to where we were, what is a community stressor? And you just, don't click on that, but just go across. That's the menu. That's what you'll find in this map: the polluting facilities, the particulate matter readings, the heavy duty trucks, the cancer risk. Keep going across. We have it all there if you want to take a deep dive. Okay. If we go to the next tab on the browser, Nick, just go to the next one. Right. What we're trying to do is teach young people about what's going on here, right? We have a Youth Eco Ambassador program. It's something that I just want to give a pitch about. We're diving in. We've been educating folks since 2011. We're now trying to wrap all of that learning material and the curriculum that we've been teaching adults for all those years into a format where we can bring Youth Eco Ambassadors into this conversation. So last pitch, big fundraiser in Hudson County Thursday night, Hudson Gives. We're participating. We're raising money for this program. Part of it, and this is probably the third time on Wednesday evening that we're going to speak to young people about the air quality issue in Jersey City and how they can get more involved in green civics. So support us on Hudson Gives Thursday night. Thank you.
Hello. Thank you, Deborah. To our brave YouTube folks, thank you for your patience. The live stream just cut out of nowhere. Not sure why, but we're back live. So thank you for coming back. I see you guys trickling in one by one. First, I just want to give a quick shout out. Just I see some elected officials. I see our awesome Councilman Tom Zuppa. Thank you for coming. And, I also saw our at-large council member Lavarro. Thank you for coming. And numerous community leaders. I see Dawn. Thank you for coming, Dawn. Yeah.
Director Andrew Kaplan from the infrastructure and
From infrastructure. Thank you. And an aide from at-large Councilwoman Mamta Singh's office.
the mayor's office
And the mayor's office.
The Brooks representative is here as well. Well, presented today by the community and its leadership.
Thank
You all have
So thank you guys for coming. For the next hour or so, we're gonna open it up for a Q&A. I know that other folks are at other meetings and maybe joining us a little later. But what I'll do now is open it up for Q&A. You can start lining in the back, and then Colin's already up. Brooke and Deborah, if you guys can come up, and they'll just field your questions. And after an hour or so, give or take, then I know that other folks are gonna trickle in, and then I'll give the elected officials and community leaders, if they just want to say a couple of words about their position on this, that'll be great. So but for now, we'll do the Q&A, and then we'll take it from there. And thank you, our YouTube warriors. Thank you for your patience. Okay, so And feel free to just line in the back of the mic.
Hello.
It is working.
I'll go first. Hi, I'm Anastasia Panas. I've lived in the neighborhood for many years now, and I signed the petitions, I show up to the meetings, I tell my neighbors, and I tell everyone I know, but what else can we do?
Oh, yeah, such a great question. So I think the petition is a great spot to be in. But I think the secondary step is to, if you're able to send an email to the email address that's on the top of my presentation. I'm forgetting it off the top of my head, but it's there on the Canva link and I can send it to you. And to connect your story to why you don't want this. You know, what is it about this particular facility that is most bothering you? You know what I mean? The DEP, they know me, they know Deb, they know Colin, they hate to see us coming. Like they know what we're gonna say. But I think that the residents who have to live around this potential facility, they want to hear from you. Y'all are the folks that can tell them why this, or maybe why it should, you know, if that's where you're sitting. I'm not going to tell you what to feel about your community, but to tell your story. And I think that the best example I can give is there was one gentleman who went to the hearing who had his daughter with him, and I am very familiar with that sort of thing. I grew up, my mom was mostly a single mother, and you know, she brought me everywhere. She brought me everywhere. And I remember coloring, and this little girl did the same thing. She had her bubbles. And he talked about this concept of, you know, that the facility would have the audacity to build near where so many children live. And if they could look her in the eye with her little bubbles and say, yeah, this is a compelling public interest, that's wild. You know, so I think that sort of storytelling would be absolutely beneficial, and I can get you the email address to send it to.
Yeah, so there are two ways to do this, right? So you can sit down and write your personal story and have this be a very, you know, personal conveyance coming from you. There's also a facilitated, quick, you know, way that you can submit. And we're trying to strategize here a little bit because sometimes, you know, there's a weighted opportunity if you were to sit down and write your own letter versus, you know, submitting what would be something that was very thoughtfully written for you, but still it's not coming from you. And it's a little bit more of a form letter, sort of like a petition that you would sign on to. You have both of those opportunities, but the public, you know, comment period, which was originally, you know, set to expire on May 28th, it looks like hearing from Jake Epros today, and the council people and city officials were on that same email, that it looks like there's been maybe some agreement by Van Keuren not only to add an additional public hearing. So it was going to be the one and only April 28th. It was not in a good place. It was inaccessible to people, but that there would be another public hearing added and there would be an extension to the public comment period, right? So people, you know, need to kind of stay plugged in and informed. That's why I'm saying I'll put up a website, right, on sustainablejc.org. I'm not sure if the city is going to do something like that, but you know, the resources that I've shared in terms of talking points also include the mailing address if you want to send it either through the post or electronically by email, your personal story and your interest and why this is not okay with you, right? So that information isn't handily in the room for you now, but you're part of a mailing list here where the information from this evening can be sent to you. So staying plugged in and informed, and then taking the next step to potentially send in a public comment for this, and then potentially appearing at the next public hearing, which is being tentatively scheduled for June 4th and June 9th. That's a Thursday, Tuesday. And in theory, this is supposed to be located in the neighborhood of where this is going on. There were 3 recommendations the last time at the public hearing. I think it was St. Agnes. If people had recommended that, or the senior center that was close by there, right, as 2 opportunities. So stay tuned. And I think, Tom, you
Mount Carmel Church on Broadway is an option.
was also an option. Okay, so you're working on that.
Yep, I just emailed you back.
Sorry,
I just emailed you back.
just said, all right, I was gonna knock on you. Okay, great. Thank you for that. So we'll, so the point is that there's a community of people here all leaning in and you need to stay plugged in on your own. No one is gonna do this for you. You gotta do it, right? So rally other people. Not everybody has been able to make it to the public hearing or here tonight, right? And this is just like fantastic that this is being streamed on YouTube, right? And we're going to now have a bulletin board, a billboard, if you will, on SJC's website with all of these resources. And, these people, they're an amazing resource for us. Obviously, the municipality has their own legal staff who are looking into this. Some of the state electeds were at the public hearing. They were looking into this. What I'm going to say would be a shame is that if people were not all in communication with each other and that if elected officials were not in communication with the community. So if elected officials are doing what they're doing behind the scenes, but the community doesn't know what they're doing, that will not work. Right, in terms of what we're all trying to achieve together.
So I just wanted to add that there is a commitment to do a session like this at each and every ward. Councilman Gilmore had volunteered at the Beth Human Center. We will be screening a companion film called The Sacrifice Zone, which more graphically shows what this would look like. So Brooke and I are working on the date specifically, but we'll be putting it out just as we did this way through all of our social media, all of the networks. We sent it out. Yeah, Brooke, in the next few days. These sites are available right now, so it's a matter of actually scheduling them. Okay, so the Sacrifice Zone definitely. Another resource is that we do, thanks to Colin, have the availability of the actual tape that was presented by Van Keuren. So if you didn't get a chance to see that, that will also be available. So there is a commitment to presenting this material at every ward and doing everything possible for us to put it out in networks. But it's also up to everybody else. Tell 5 neighbors, and everybody has a network of sorts. Pass the word around. So I think that we're off to a good start. They're done.
So
Thank you.
The transcript or something?
Well, yes, so I need to correct the record on that. I didn't produce that. But to be clear, on GP's website, there is a recording of the hearing in case anyone is interested in seeing that. Fair warning, there's an hour-long presentation at the beginning by the facility. They make a very, they make an argument for their facility. I guess, yes, it is the original hearing. That's absolutely right. One other thing I just wanted to say in terms of, the question of what else can we be doing, right? I mean, it's worth, first of all, celebrating how much you are doing already, right? It's so disheartening and frustrating, I think, to speak and not be heard. And I think some very important ways to speak and be heard are the things that you're doing now. But to be clear, I think you can also, by talking with your neighbors and turning out other people, make an argument as well to the legislators who are passing laws that control whether or not a facility can be built in the first place, right? You can push lawmakers or elected officials to push for additional hearings, right? We have to acknowledge that elected officials have power, but are ultimately elected by the people. And it's important to apply that pressure as best you're able to, right? Because elected officials want to serve their communities, right? That's the main goal. So I think as much as you're able by turning out your neighbors to pressure elected officials as well as commenting, I think you're able to amplify your voice. And I think it's really powerful.
And I would just like to acknowledge Councilwoman Elena Little, who is in the audience, and Councilman Griffin, who is coming in. You have more questions to direct them to board officials. And Director Kaplan.
The director is Sonia Dublin of recycling.
Director Sonia Dublin from recycling. Thank you. Is there anyone else that we have omitted? Because we have quite a showing here from the community. Oh, Rolando, yes, Councilman Lavarro, definitely. So there are representatives here presently from almost every ward and community members as well. And we're taking it on the road. So definitely, use this. If every one person does their one part, 100 one of these is 100 voices. So definitely, the floor is yours.
Please.
Hey guys. Given the overwhelmingly negative impact on the environment this would have, on what grounds would the DEP even approve of this? Like, what are the chances that can actually happen, and why would they?
Yes. What a great question.
Yes, it can actually happen. Like,
Want to write that one on the wall.
Did you want to go first?
oh
I can go first if you'd rather not.
no, it's okay. I mean, it really comes down to the compelling public interest piece. I think that's why I have been so, I'll say it. I've been annoying. I've been saying that word a lot. You're probably really tired of hearing me say compelling public interest over and over and over again. But that's because the entirety of the argument and quite frankly, the justification of pollution and, like Colin mentioned, the treating of that overridden community like a sacrifice zone hinges on whether or not that the DEP buys the argument that it is a compelling public interest. So, I can't speculate on, and I don't work for the DEP, so I can't say, what they're talking about in terms of their team, but yeah, that's really what it hinges on. But I'm of the persuasion that that's a slam dunk argument. It's not a compelling public interest, just flat out, through any of the problems, any test, any lens whatsoever.
Do you have an idea of how long it's going to take for them to distill around this?
Yeah. Okay. So for those who maybe didn't hear, Deb asked how long it might take. Again, I have an unhelpful answer. No, I don't know. So far, we only have 2 EJ decisions specifically EJ. Yeah. Under the rules, there's a little bit of a, we're sort of laughing because there's the administrative order, which is a whole other can of worms. I'm not gonna dive us into. Those took I think 4 to 6 months ish. And then we're still waiting on others. So there's a queue, so to speak. So I think Deb, you made a great point that a lot of this is going to be perseverance and staying in touch, keeping track of this. Thankfully, that's what I get paid to do. I get paid to track this. So I can help you track this and then we can go from there. Once that decision comes out, just to kind of forecast a little bit. So the EJ decision will come out. I'm fingers crossed that it's just a flat out denial. That is my personal opinion. And if it's a denial, it's done. We won.
What if it's not a denial?
If it's not a denial, then DEP can completely say, yes, everything you put was perfect. I have no notes. And then it will go to the next portion of the permitting process. So you'll hear us probably say like permitting clock will start again. So this is just specifically the EJ portion. Every other Title V permit has its own, organization to it. And then there's going to be another opportunity for public comment if it goes through. The other option, very similar pathway, is DEP could say, yeah, I think this meets compelling public interest, but, and they could place conditions. And so they could say, but you can't do this, this, and this, and you must do this, this, and this. I have thoughts, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it, if we get to it. And if that were the case, then again, there would be, the permit clock would start again. There would be another round of public comment, and we would take the argument as far as it needed to go. Hopefully that answered the question. Okay.
I think, yeah, just one, I think small thing maybe I want to add, and obviously, right, like there's no crystal ball, but as an attorney myself, I would be very nervous standing in front of a court trying to defend an argument that this is somehow going to provide a benefit within the overburdened community. I think the way that they try and get around that in their environmental justice application is talking about how they'll provide to people living in the OBC itself reduced tipping rates and a job. And like I said before, this is an insulting idea, right? And there are probably plenty of attorneys who would be willing to stand up and defend something like that, but frankly, that's ridiculous, and I would love to see them try and defend that. Oh, and sorry, one other quick correction, which is just, yes, it does go through the application, but this is actually a solid waste rather than a Title V, so slightly different, but there's like a whole separate permitting process afterwards, and we can again push on that.
But if it,
So we're not
if
done.
it fails this if it fails this EJ portion, it's done. Is that correct?
That's right.
All right.
Hi. I'm just wondering, do we know the method of conversion for the potential bioenergy facility? Like, do we know for sure, would it be like combustion or like thermogenic or like biochemical? Because I'm wondering if it's possible for them to argue that there's a community benefit in that it's, sustainable renewable energy, or that there's not too many emissions because it produces steam, or it's done through fermentation. Is there any
But that's not
additional-
really on record right now. That was something you ferreted out, right? So they can't claim that. But if you know something about it and you want to get on a research team, not for anything, we could use you. Right? Please come and see me if you want to be part of this team. We're developing story maps. We're, inventing reasons to have broader conversation here. This is all based on data. This is data intensive work, right? It looks like it's a nice picture, but there's a lot that goes into a single chart. Right? If you want to work on this, then please see me.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. And it's exactly like you said, in the sense of, and I just want to really underscore this. This was completely not in their environmental justice application at all. This was something that we found through research, right? So to be clear, they haven't tried to tell anyone anything about this. And I don't know what that means, but like if I was proud of a process, I would put it in my application.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for your presentation. So two questions, very quick. I may have missed it because I came in late. Is there another public hearing? And then number two, you mentioned elected officials for people to reach out and get them engaged on this, and that's what got me here tonight. But outside of us who are all here tonight, are there other elected officials who are truly involved in the actual decision coming down in some way that can influence that?
So it seems Jake and Tom had been part of the conversation early on, and there was a presumption, and maybe that's the wrong presumption, that they were keeping the rest of council informed and had shared as much as what was being shared amongst the community, then with them, and then with the mayor's office. So I had sent off an email to the mayor's office and some of the council representatives, thinking that there would be a relay team kind of thing going on that may or may not be happening. So to the extent that at the public hearing, there was Katie, there was Raj, we had Robbie calling in. So there seemed to be people who were kind of working on this. There's a group email, but there's not a lot of conversation coming back from elected officials. We heard from Jake and from Tom about establishing a venue for the second public hearing and a couple of opportunities for a second public hearing date. The community doesn't know anything else. They're not being communicated with by public officials beyond what I've just shared.
Just to answer the second half of the question regarding legislators that might have some sort of decision-making power on the permit. As far as I understand, and I'm totally willing to be corrected, but as far as I understand, legislators themselves don't have a hand in the permit approval process. That's going to be Acting Commissioner Ed Potasnik as the Commissioner of the DEP, and then the Director of the Office of Environmental Justice, Candace Perry. So those are the folks that are going to be making those decisions, along with the heads of the particular division handling the permit. So those are the folks that made the decision. That being said, having the elected officials come out in number, both local and state level, was an immense show of support for the community, saying we don't want this. So the more that happens, the better. I wish that happened at every single permit hearing. I truly do. Whether or not we agree with the proposal or not, like that should be just a standard practice. So I would say that for state officials, really calling your folks saying like, hey, can you press DEP upon this? Can you talk about this? Can you ask questions about this? Is a good tactic.
Just for the folks joining us in the live stream, your questions appear, but they also disappear. So for now, keep your questions coming. There won't really be a way for me to read them tonight, but put them in the chat anyway, so it's recorded, and then I will connect with the presenters to see what will be the easiest way to find answers. So put your questions in the chat, but they disappear, but it'll be recorded. Thank you.
All right. So thank you all for the information you guys have brought to us tonight. As somebody who's been kind of out of the loop in the dark about this until tonight.
Introduce himself.
I'm sorry?
Introduce yourself.
Oh, sorry. My name's Chris Lamb, member at JSQCA. But you guys have put obviously a lot of work and research into this, and I appreciate it immensely. And I look forward to digging into the links a little more. So I think I just have a question on, if Van Keuren's going to be kind of pushing this, like, compelling public benefit argument. I'm wondering if there's a stronger case to kind of punch back on that point using data. And I was wondering during the presentation, if they've presented or provided more information regarding kind of like the logistics of how they envision the facility working. So regarding where the waste, the catchment area for the waste coming into the facility, but then also the outbound, where it's going. Because again, the OBC is being impacted, but if the waste is coming from a much larger area, and from looking at data from DEP, a lot of transfer stations are distributing waste out of state. And that's just a way that we can further detach this facility from the local area. It's very much detached from this community. And if there's data that we can use to kind of support that case more, can we use it?
Yes, absolutely. We can. No, I think I want to say, first of all, to the extent that you'd like to dig in further on DEP's website, the facility has what's called its environmental justice impact statement that has all of the information that they provide to the public on the facility. And so that includes the kind of, I talk very surface level because I don't know all the details, but it talks about how this waste is coming from the NJSEA as a whole into this one transfer station and potentially being trucked out, right, to out-of-state landfills. It's primarily out-of-state landfills. So I think you can find more specific data actually in their environmental justice impact statement and probably on DEP's website regarding where waste is coming from and where it's going. NJSEA's website I've found is very difficult to navigate, but you are more than welcome to try.
Cool.
You should feel free if you'd like, but
Bring it up.
some of it's
Do
here,
it.
but
Do it.
Okay. The other thing, just in terms of data that I think might be worth digging into just a little bit, is that they talk about like the potential housing that might have waste that they might need to take. And so I'm seeing a lot of knitted brows, and that was my exact reaction reading this statement as well, that they're talking about like NGSEA's housing goals. And so with those housing goals is going to come construction waste, and okay, sure, but none of that has been actualized. And so they're talking about taking waste that doesn't exist. So what public benefit are you serving with this imaginary waste that you're taking? It's just odd. It's just very odd. So that was the only point I was going to add to that.
Hi, my name is Aaron Weiner. I'm a healthcare data analyst. And I went through the SJC's the story maps. And so I read about, like the rates, the risk of cancer and other things, heavy metal toxicity. But I wonder, I didn't see there specifically something like whenever a new facility is open or a facility is expanded, like the number of new cases that or the change in the percentage of new cases annually in each one of those facilities. What's that?
I said good luck with that information.
So that
I'm
that
sorry,
way,
I was teasing. I was saying good luck with getting that information, but if you know where to dig for that, we'll add it.
that's what. So I don't know where to dig for it, but I would do it if I had some direction. Because I think especially with our newly overburdened fewer hospitals, that lends to that case.
So work with them.
Okay.
Great, do it. What's
right.
your name?
Aaron Weiner.
Aaron, Deborah, thanks. Good.
Okay.
Done. It's done.
Hi, it's Sada Wright, Jersey City Times. Brooke, you said that there were, I guess, 2 or 3 other EJ decisions. Can you just tell us what the result of them were? Did they go in the direction of the community, or was there, some other kind of middle ground that was struck?
Oh man, Colin can feel my stress with that question. I'm not thrilled with that. And I've made that pretty clear. Our partners have also made that pretty clear. DEP has put in some conditions. So the outcome of those decisions were with regards to 2 facilities, that is Safety Clean and Corning Pharmaceutical Glass. Right? Yes. Oh, there's a couple others now, but those are the 2 that I am most attuned and familiar with. So I'll speak to those. DEP did put in conditions, so I will grant them that. That being said, I do not believe that those conditions were nearly strong enough. I think that there is a lot of opportunity for the DEP to really do something creative and innovative when it comes to emissions reductions and when it comes to addressing the cumulative impact of air pollution burden for overburdened communities. And I think that New Jersey is leading the way when it comes to cumulative impacts policy. As I mentioned at the beginning of my presentation, this is the first kind of law of its kind in the country. That is both so scary and so exciting because it means that every decision is precedent setting. And so I think that there is a lot of opportunity for DEP to become very innovative and to explore emissions reducing technologies, to look at where we can electrify and what types of equipments we can transition from fossil fuel powered to electrified, and then co-locate. Can we put solar? Can we put wind on site to get that electricity so we're not straining the grid and we're still electrifying? We're reducing the emission, because when it gets to air pollution burden, it's not just going to sit next to the facility. It's going to get to that surrounding area. And there's something that the chair of our board, Dr. Sheets, always says that has really rung true for me, which is that when we win the fight against climate change, because I have to believe that we will, the folks that have lost their lives due to localized air pollution burden are not coming back to us. And so every single decision that we make when it comes to air pollution, when it comes to electrification, when it comes to, making a more green, more safe, more electrified, just transition, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, is so important. So to get back to the heart of your question, I think there's more that we can do, and there's more that we have to do when it comes to protecting public health. And all of those thoughts are detailed in open letters that are on our website regarding Safety Clean and Corning, which I'm happy to get you those links afterwards. Yeah.
Thanks. I think Brooke is so eloquent. I thoroughly appreciate you saying that. Truly fantastic answer. I just wanted to add one smaller thing, which is just to clarify that the EJ decisions that we've seen so far are on existing facilities, right? So for those folks who are concerned that these EJ decisions came out and weren't as strong as they could have been, those were on facilities that are regulated under a different framework. This is a completely new facility that faces a mandatory denial. So I just want to be clear.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that this facility won't get stopped.
Good evening, everyone. Councilman Michael Griffin. So from my understanding, that area is light industrial, right? And light industrial, no chemicals can be stored, no raw materials, no smoke or smells can come from that area. That would be considered heavy industrial. So I guess my question is, did Van Keuren speak about how they're gonna work around that if they do get this, or has that come up?
So the way that they talk about the managing of, for example, smells is they make this claim that everything's going to happen within this enclosed area that is under reverse pressure. So it's all in theory going to have to go through the emissions control system that they have, right? Is the idea that it's in this enclosed thing. But I'll be honest with you, I just so strongly doubt that. It's one thing to have an enclosed facility and very good emissions controls. It's another thing to have people who are supposed to operate that and who are supposed to close the doors. It's another thing to have these trash trucks that are driving by and potentially dropping stuff as they hit every single bump in the road. And I got to tell you, there are a lot of bumps in that road. I walked along it. I just don't think those smells are staying on site. I really, really don't.
Sorry, one thing that the public comment period, you can also ask questions. So I do want to make clear for folks that maybe are interested in giving a public comment or sending an email that's not through our automated form, they just want to email. You can put those questions. I've done that for particular facilities. When I read their aegis and I say, hey, that word is sticking out to me in a way that doesn't make sense. And I can say, I call this into question. Here's what I'm worried about. Here's why I think that this is a little bit fishy. And we can go from there. So
That's a great point. Like ask your questions. Like put those questions into the and demand an answer back to your question.
yeah. And the best part is they have to answer as part of the EJ.
They have to answer your question.
Yeah.
People don't remember that they're entitled to that, right? And you are.
Hi, my name is Deborah McWilliams, and I'm JSQCA member, and I also live in Ward C. I have two questions. One, I was on the Zoom link call, and from what I understand, they said that they can bring in waste from other municipalities.
Yeah.
Well, if they can bring in waste, let's say from Bergen County, how come they're not putting this in Bergen County and they're dumping it in Hudson County? That's number one. Number two, I understand a representative from DEP was on the Zoom link call. Are they gonna bring their butt in person to the next meeting?
Well, it's a great point, you know. I mean, he's a very nice gentleman, Tom Giordano, who is the family, you know, behind Van Keuren, who explained that Van Keuren is a family business and, you know, that he was born and bred and, you know, his family's from Jersey City. Of course, he doesn't live here any longer. And he didn't have an answer to my question when I said, why aren't we building it where you live now?
Okay. I think this question might be more for Colin, but if I heard you correctly, you said something to the effect of like if they get away with this, like this is like step one, and like there's other things that might be in the pipeline. Can you talk a little bit more about what that even darker future could look like?
Sure. And to be clear, I don't know for sure what exactly will happen. And there's a reason for that. The reason I don't know is because they didn't put it in their environmental justice application in the first place, right? But this potential future thing that might happen is the company that owns the company that applied for this permit might put in a biofuels facility, because in the contract where they bought this company, they said our primary goal, they know they own 99% of it. They said our primary goal is to operate a biofuels facility. Our secondary goal is to operate a transfer station, right? So, I mean, they are applying for the transfer station first, but I got to tell you, based on the wording of the contract, that doesn't sound like the only step that they have in mind for this particular community, for this particular site. We told them about it. We're waiting to see what they do about that. But to be clear, everybody who knows about it now, please feel free to include that in your comments, which is a great tie-in. Everybody check out the QR code. No, for real though, this QR code is it's a customizable comment.
Yeah.
Basically, this takes you to a website and you have the opportunity to put in your information, tell where you live, and talk about your story, the pollution that you face, your particular concerns about this facility, and then submit that. That's going to go to the facility, that's going to go to DEP, the facility has to respond, DEP is going to have to consider your comments. It's a great way to tell your story, right? You should Personalize this as much as you would like. Use this as an opportunity to get your voice heard. Like we said earlier, they have to respond.
So is this, I just have a question because I'm new to this game also. So if I were to customize my response using this format, and this goes to DEP, and this is something that you had created for everyone to use as an opportunity to template that you can customize. It goes to DEP. How is that different, or what is their listening behind receiving this versus someone's personal comment that they send separately, not as a part of the EJA impetus?
Yeah. Yeah, the only real difference is that like we're gonna have a subject line that comes through that automated form. So there might be a chance that DEP and Van Keuren see, and I gotta say, like y'all have showed out, there's over 250 submissions on this form so far. So like that's a massive amount of emails that are going through. So they'll see 250 of those subject lines, and then they aren't required to read every single one. So even if they have to read 250 of the exact same message every single time, that's personally not my problem. That's their problem. So that's what they have to do. And so you could then take that message and customize it yourself, or functionally the same thing, send the email yourself through your email address to the same email thing and do your own subject line. That's really the only difference. You might get a slight more standout if you have your own subject line, but at the end of the day, they have to read every single one.
Okay, cool.
Are there additional questions from the audience? Are you gonna make an announcement?
I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank the Hudson County Community College for hosting us. We're celebrating their 150th anniversary. This is the kind of work that they do, not just, math and English and things like that. They do serve the community, and it's a wonderful venue available to everybody. So thank Hudson County. And we're acknowledging Dr. Evers, moving on to another assignment. So thank you for the leadership that he make all of this environment possible. So with having said that, thank you to Councilman Gilmore for committing the Bethune Center for another meeting like this, and for the screening of the film, The Sacrifice Zone, which we are going to work on shortly. And we hope to do this in all of the wards. So Ward C already has a venue, so BAPC, the Bergen Arches Preservation Coalition, will be hosting a meeting like this, as well as a screening. And we have another member of the community here. I don't know if she acknowledged, but she has volunteered her site as well, which is a beautiful facility for as well the screening of the film or another meeting like this. So I will be contacting all of our sister neighborhood organizations. We all get together. We don't all have a space, but we could come together and make this happen. Okay, so thank you. And if anybody has any last questions, the floor is open. And thank you to the Journal School Association, President
Well,
Fitz.
we haven't wrapped up just yet.
Initiative in this important environment.
No.
This is concern.
No, I'm good. Are you gonna make a comment?
No.
Hello. Okay. Yeah. No. As I indicated earlier when we kicked off, we were gonna have a portion for any of the elected officials if they wanted to say a few words. This was sort of impromptu. Like, I'm kind of just somewhat putting them on the spot, and so all good. If you don't. But first, a big round of applause to Deborah, Brooke, and Colin.
Yep.
JSQCA will for sure continue to be a partner, with you guys and promoting the word, and then I'll connect with you or Margaret, one of us, to make sure that all of the presentations and the links are accessible either through our website or through our newsletter. We'll make sure that the word gets out. And so apologies because I'm not as familiar with all of the folks that are here, but I know a few folks from the mayor's office came. I don't know if you guys want to give a few remarks.
Talk.
Right. Councilman Zuppa, would you like to say a few words?
Thanks, Fitz. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Be very brief. As I said, the public comment back in April, this was a bad idea 10 years ago when I was first suggested. It's a bad idea currently. It's not part of the Ward C we're trying to build, which includes community, green space, building, families that are safe and healthy in the community. So, and we know much more now, 10 years later, about the pollution and the effects on us than we did back then. So, the question earlier was, what can you do? I think you need to continue to put pressure on your local officials, your city council people, because it's our job then to put pressure on the next level up, which would be our state legislators. I met with Senator McCurgy, who I've known for many years. He spoke at the public meeting. He's obviously opposed to this as well. And I asked him a similar question, which is, how do you put pressure on DEP and use your relationships at the governor's office? I'm sure the mayor's doing the same thing, leveraging his relationships. So it's very rare that people agree on something like this, where 100% of us are opposed to it. We'll take it, given our diversity of opinions on things, whether you hate it because of traffic or you hate it because it's bad for the environment or a mix of both. Everyone hates this proposal, so we'll continue to fight for it. And as Deb mentioned, there will be another community meeting in June. Mount Carmel Church has graciously offered several times to host it, so we just need to finalize the date. And speaking of public comment, unrelated to this issue, but I do want to mention there's a flyer in the back here. Wednesday, the county is meeting at the culinary school to hear feedback on building affordable housing at County Plaza. I appreciate General Square Community Association for advertising that and hosting this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Zuppa. I also saw Councilman Griffin. Would you like to say a few remarks?
Yeah, sure.
I'm putting folks on the spot here just in case you wanted to. Yeah.
I'm not going to take much of your time, but just being born and raised in Jersey City in the Bergen area, and my grandparents living in Greenville, I pollution affected my family hard, right? Unfortunately, I can't prove it, but I had aunts, my grandfather, plenty of people that lived in that area died from cancer. My father told me about how they used to play on a lime green dirt pile on Garfield Avenue, which you could have that. But and what's happening now, first of all, we're looking to increase density on the west side of Chenley Avenue in that area, right? But when you're talking about trash, you're talking about air pollution. You're talking about infected rodents, right? That are coming out from that'll probably come from an infected river over there. And so, it can get really nasty. It can get really, really nasty. So we got to continue to fight. And, I'll leave my cards here. We'll hand them out. So you can reach out to me if you'd like, but I'm in a fight. Okay? All right.
Thank you, Councilman Griffin. I know I saw Councilman Lavarro, but he might have stepped in. Councilman. Hi. Thank you.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Rolando Lavarro, Councilman-At-Large. I'll be very brief. I just want to say thank you to everyone again and for the education. I was only vaguely aware of what the waste transfer facility. And so good to learn more about that. And I'll just be very brief and just say I'm in the fight. You can count on me. I'm going to push. I don't know how close this is to coming to a decision, but no time to waste. Let's get to work. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilwoman Little.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here tonight. Standing in solidarity with Ward C. My name is Eleana Little. I represent Ward E downtown. But I take environmental justice concerns extremely seriously. And this is an already overburdened community. We do not need more pollution. This will have a direct impact on people's health and quality of life. So I heard the call to action to host one in my ward. I'm happy to work with Sustainable JC on that and partner to get another community meeting downtown. And I'm committed to standing with you every step of the way. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Councilman.
This is a citywide issue. This is not a
Yeah.
ward issue. Right? Everybody gets that, right?
Oh, agreed. It's an all hands on deck situation now. Any council person that I'm missing? Sorry. Any community leaders that would like to say a few words? Okay.
Fitz, I have a bunch of the questions from the live stream.
Mhm.
Do you want me to ask them?
We do. No. We do actually have the questions from the live stream. So we do have more time. So why don't we field as many as we can? And yeah, that's a great idea. Thanks, Adam.
Okay. And sorry, I'm also listening to the live stream at the same time. So apologies if I go off topic. I'm kind of paraphrasing one of the questions, but obviously you just alluded to the fact that this is a citywide issue. I see members of the mayor's administration here, but I haven't heard anything from the mayor himself. And I know a lot of neighbors have emailed the mayor and have not heard back from the mayor. And
we made our comment at the previous thing. Mayor strongly opposed. He's organized.
right, but the mayor has showed up to make a video about Boulevard drinks. Where's the mayor leading on this? Because we need somebody from the city to coordinate all of the council people's responses and the city's response. And it seems like there's not really a single person on behalf of the city who is speaking on this, and that should be the head of the city.
The mayor's office is already working on that, actually, to coordinate a response from all the administration.
Come on. Need to just like
Where does the mayor personally stand on this, I guess?
He's very strongly opposed and is working to make sure it doesn't happen.
Okay.
Yes.
If this plant does get approved, and they decide to convert to a biofuel processing plant, is there another environmental justice like trigger that happens that they would need to go for another permit?
Yeah.
Yes, but here's something I want to flag with that, and this is really me kind of going into speculation, but something I want to be clear about is when there's a new facility, there's a mandatory denial if it would increase the pollution burden that a community faces, right? And so that's why they face a mandatory denial right now. But when there's something that's an expansion of a facility or a modification of a facility, there's not actually a mandatory denial. Now, we actually have disagreed with DEP about what counts as an expansion or a modification.
They can't just say.
Yes, this is true. They would need to adjust what they say. Brooke,
Yeah.
you can say it better.
Yeah, so like, yeah, probably, but they would have to adjust what they're saying. So they would have to they'd probably make a very similar argument. And ideally, if this gets denied, they would have a very similar denial. But like in theory, yeah, but I think Colin's right. Like this is such a strong show of force for a denial that if it is denied, I can't imagine they would want to try again, at least in this community.
Okay. Can you give any background on the I know that the environmental justice law was passed in 2020. Can you all give some background on the passage of the law, the implementation of the law? How many, I think you said 2 facilities have been approved under the law. Is that the total number of facilities that have requested a permit under the law?
Okay, so the law was passed in 2020 after a lot of advocacy, I think like over a decade worth of organizing from folks across the state. The law was passed and the rules were then promulgated in 2023. So those are the rules that dictate then how the law is implemented. The first hearings happened in 2024 and the first decisions under the EJ law in particular happened in 2025. I have misspoken. As of like Thursday evening, there's more than 2, but prior to Thursday, there had only been 2 decisions under the EJ law. I think there's like 4 or 5 now, but Colin I can see is rapidly scrolling and trying to figure out that specific number, so don't quote me on that. And those are specific to the EJ law. And that again is this small caveat that then resumes the rest of the permitting process. So I can't say for sure whether or not those facilities have gotten their full-fledged permits yet. This is just the decision under the law. And those, Colin made a very good point earlier. All of those that were taking place, all of those hearings were not for new facilities. They were for existing facilities. So it is a different subset of the rule, a different sort of framework for DEP's decision makings and what they can and can't do, what isn't required as part of the process. This in particular is a brand new facility and is the first brand new facility. And that is why we're really leaning all in, because it is a litmus test for the strength of the law, of how strongly we read the compelling public interest question. And I think I would say, and I know folks on my team have said this, that if the compelling public interest clause is read loosely, that really stresses me out in terms of the rest of the law, because that means a lot of other facilities are probably going to try to pick on that compelling public interest piece, which means a lot of other overburdened communities across the state are going to have the exact same fight that y'all are having right now.
And the two other, so you said that they were approved in 2025. So that necessarily means that they were not approved under the current governor. They were approved under the former DEP.
Yes, under the former DEP, former Commissioner Sean LaTourette. The new ones, I actually do know that. There's 4 new ones that those have been approved under Acting Commissioner Ed Potasnik.
Okay. I think that was the end of the questions. And then I guess I have a personal question. In terms of obviously we've heard a lot about the NJSEA, which seems to be, at least in my opinion, operating above the reach of any local government, except for I think Secaucus, Kearney, and I think maybe North Bergen have opted out. But in your,
can you explain that? What do you mean by
there's an opt-out provision under NJSEA rules. So without getting into the whole history of the NJSEA was essentially created to preserve the Meadowlands, ironically, and over time has become the operator of MetLife Stadium and all of these sports and exposition and entertainment part of the Meadowlands, while also kind of arguably being responsible for maintaining the health of the Meadowlands as a wildlife area. But they've clearly not done a very good job of that. Kearney, which had the Keegan landfill, was run by the Keegan landfill was run by the NJSEA. So in the last few years, there's been an opt-out provision that was added into NJSEA rules that allowed any town within the NJSEA district to opt out of zoning decisions that the NJSEA is making. It basically devolves local control. However, the board of the NJSEA can overrule that unilaterally. So I'm curious, and maybe this isn't necessarily the environmental perspective, but what can we do as a city to stop this nonsense from happening ever again? I mean, it's crazy to me. There's a trucking facility that was built in the NJSEA boundary right across the street from where this facility is being proposed. That is a major trucking facility. It is a huge source of heavy truck traffic in our neighborhood, and there was no oversight over it. The NJSEA approved it. Jersey City said nothing under the former mayor, and they plopped a giant distribution facility into a residential neighborhood. I believe that was approved before the rules were promulgated in 2023. But how do we stop this? How do we say to the NJSEA, you can't do this in Jersey City?
And rewind some of the previous decisions. Don't just go for small stuff. I mean, this really is, this is atrocious. This whole goddamn thing needs to be put out of business.
that whole area, that district needs to be reinvented.
No.
Can I ask one more? Because you said something, I just want to ask this one question. So, now you said if they are approved for this facility, they can add the bio facility under any conditions, under conditions. So if they don't get this, then go for the bio, get the bio, can they add the trash facility without going through anything else?
I want to backtrack. So the conditions are specific to what DEP places if they approve a permit. So that's we call them EJ conditions.
Okay.
When it comes to the bio, and again, I do want to really underscore what Colin has said that we are speculating. We found this SEC filing, but none of this is in the aegis. So again, we're kind of trying to look into like the future and forecast what may or may not happen. Let's play the game though that the transfer station is denied. Yeah, I mean, I could see an instance in which the facility would come in and say, yeah, I want to try to get a proposal for a biofuels facility or a biomass production facility. But that would be a new permit. So again, like they would have to prove compelling public interest. They would have to say that having biofuel in this particular area would serve this need, this essential need, and there are no reasonable alternatives. I don't see a way that that argument holds up. Maybe someone somewhere out there could figure out and try to argue that, but it would have to go through this entire thing first. And then I guess, yeah, if we were to say that they were managed to play that, like we could play that out, but it would have to go through the entire process all over again.
Right. No, I get that, but saying it's approved, would they be able to try to sneak the transfer station in with conditions? Is that possible if it's something like that?
So yes, but no, if that makes sense. That's a very lawyerly answer, and I genuinely apologize for that. But the actual answer is basically if they go through this mandatory denial process, somehow get over the mandatory denial hurdle, get approved to build this biofuels facility, just biofuels facility, then they would go through the secondary process, right? If they decide to try and build the transfer station, and then they would potentially go through, like, to be clear, that's still a permitting process, actually. That is a separate process that they have to go through.
Okay.
The issue is that they would potentially try and argue that they don't face the same mandatory denial. I think that's the like really big concerning thing here is that there's a mandatory denial when it's new. There's not actually a mandatory denial when it's an expansion, right? So either way, if anything gets approved and they try and build the other, the concern is that they argue that they don't face a mandatory denial.
Isn't a waste transfer, isn't a biofuel facility dependent on having waste transfer to create biofuels in the first place?
So that's the idea. I think that's why they want to build this transfer station first, because they want to take waste from the transfer station. But here's an interesting point. There is already a transfer station within 1 mile. So in theory, they could try and build a biofuels facility. I'm sorry, two. They could try and build a biofuels facility to take waste from those transfer stations that exist already. So it's possible that they would try and operate a biofuels facility by itself. But to be clear, this whole transfer station, right? This is their first step. And let's take them at their first step. Let's take them at the pollution that's coming from this particular facility. They had to tell us what's going to come from their facility. We argue that they didn't tell us enough. They still face mandatory denial. They don't meet the compelling public interest requirements, right? Like let's take this fight and let's win it.
Woo. Nice. I love the sort of that ending, we are definitely in it to win it, as another candidate across the pond once said. Oh, not the pond, the river. So first of all, I just want to give another big round of applause to our presenters. Thank you so much, Brooke, Deborah, and Colin. We look forward to continuing the collaboration. JSQCA will be drafting a letter on behalf of the organization, obviously in opposition to all of this. And so to our membership, stay tuned. It'll pretty much be a straight up yay or nay from you, but we'll share that so that you guys understand, what the board's position is, and we look forward to your agreement. And so more to come there, but we'll wrap up with a few announcements. First of all, thank you to those who joined via YouTube. Apologies for the hiccups, but thank you for your patience. I know many of you just kept coming back again and again, so thank you. And then obviously for those of you here and to our elected officials and our city representatives, thank you for coming and taking the time to answer our questions. As far as announcements, follow us on our social media. So Instagram, Facebook is at JSQCA. YouTube is the JSQCA. We'll be posting this as well as everything that we do through our socials. As far as announcements, this Saturday, the JSQCA Clean Committee is going to have a neighborhood cleanup, 10:30 a.m. in front of Wealth Kitchen at 615 Pavonia. Thank you, Councilman, for joining us last time in April. It was good times, even though it was raining. So that's this Saturday, May 16th at 10:30. As Tom mentioned, on Wednesday the 13th, County Executive Troy Guy, as well as the councilman, are going to host a meeting on seeking input on the development of County Plaza. So that's May 13th at Hudson County Culinary Conference Center, 161 Newkirk. Then we have two events from the Museum of Jersey City History, 298 Academy Street. Please check them out. May 20th, they have the opening of their exhibition, Enduring Promise, and that's celebrating our nation's 250th. That's from 1 to 5. So that's May 20th, 1 to 5 at 298 Academy. And on May 21st, they're going to have their opening reception of the exhibition. And that reception is open to the public, 7 to 9 p.m. And then our next meeting, JSQCA, will be tentatively Monday, June 8th, over at 71 SIP. 6th floor, our usual spot, but we'll keep you guys posted as soon as we confirm that. And I think Margaret wants to, and obviously, just want to give a huge shout out to the IT folks from Hudson County. Thank you again. They've been partnering us for years, and we really appreciate everything that Hudson County does to facilitate the room and help us, bring these events to the community. Margaret, you want to say something?
To add that also this Saturday, the History Committee will be having a tour of the Gerald Square area conducted by John Gomez. So get familiar with the area, join us. We'll be getting together at 1 o'clock by Path Plaza. So come and join us.
Thank you. So that's it. Have a good night.